everybody, and welcome to Inside Number 23, my podcast about knitting and sewing and my crafty life in general. My name is Katie. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry and Periscope as Miss Lavelli. And I am coming to you, as always, from Hertfordshire, which is just north of London in the UK, where I live with my husband Emrys and our lovely little poochie Roly. And it was his birthday yesterday, oh my goodness, and he is a year old now, so very exciting. But anyway, we also have a Ravelry group that you can find just by searching Inside Number 23 podcast on Ravelry, and that's where I post my show notes, but I do also include the notes in the down bar just below for your viewing pleasure. So let me start off by saying a huge hello to any new viewers who are checking me out for the first time. It's lovely to have you here. Thank you for coming to join me for a little bit of crafty time. And as always, huge big love to anyone who is coming back for a second time or a third time or a 100th time or whatever. Just thank you for coming back. Yay! So yeah, like I said, it was Roly's birthday yesterday. My little baby boy is a year old now, and that time has just flown by. Obviously, we haven't had him with us since the day he was born. He was around 8 weeks old, I believe, when he came to live with us, but it's coming up for our year anniversary of having him with us, and yeah, it was just a really lovely day. We did have a birthday party for him because that's the kind of people that we are, but it was pretty low-key in the end. We just had a picnic in our back garden. We had lots of yummy food. We had Pims. There were hundreds of presents for Roly. He was absolutely spoilt rotten, and yeah, it was just a lovely day. And he is still exhausted today from all of the excitement of having my family over, just everyone giving him so much attention. If you're new to the podcast, you will now know how much I adore our little pug, how in love with him I am, and that he's my pride and joy. So yeah, happy birthday to my beautiful boy. What I'm drinking today, you might be wondering, is actually a smoothie. It's kind of getting to the point where it's getting a little bit more summery here in the UK. Unfortunately today, as it's the start of kind of the bank holiday weekend, it's very grey and grim. To be honest, in the history of bank holiday weekends in the UK, I've never once experienced one with sun, as far as I can remember. But I thought it would be a good idea to make myself a nice smoothie to start the day. It's a little earlier than I usually record on a Sunday, and basically just made this by popping a banana, some frozen berries, some natural yogurt and some smooth orange juice into a blender, and you get this lovely concoction of goodness. So one thing that I do have as a bit of a vice is I drink a lot of tea, mostly kind of herbal teas and natural teas, but I don't drink coffee. However, I am a little bit addicted, and when I say a little bit, I mean a lot, unfortunately, addicted to caffeinated drinks and energy drinks. In particular, things like Red Bull. I really like them, guys, and that's kind of where I get my kick from when I'm lagging during the day. So I'm doing my best to kind of replace the caffeine with some natural energy goodness. So hopefully this is going to give me the kind of kick I need, and it's so tasty. Plus everything tastes better when you put a stripy straw into it. So yum. One other little bit of admin before we get started with all of the good crafty stuff is that this week is going to be the start of the Voidalong. And in case you have missed this little addition to the podcast, the Voidalong is a knit-along that I'm going to be co-hosting with my lovely, gorgeous, wonderful friend Eric of the Sticks Twine podcast. We are both hosting this cowl for the Void Shawl, which is a beautiful pattern by Melanie Berg. We are kicking off on the 1st of June, so that's coming up on Wednesday. I'm so excited. I actually have a day off on Wednesday, so I might do a little bit of periscoping when I've kind of got my void casted on. I think that might be exciting. But yeah, if you're interested in taking part, both Eric and I now have chatter threads open in our Ravelry groups. Please get involved. It seems that a lot of people are getting excited about it. So yeah, check out both my group and Eric's group, and let's get casted on and knitting, and it's so exciting. I have my beautiful Quince & Co Lark yarn that I'm going to be using for this project, and one of the treats that I have in store for myself this afternoon is that I'm actually going to start caking it up. Might be a little bit sad to get super excited about caking up yarn, but I don't even care. I am excited about the Voidalong and I cannot wait to get started. I'm going to put the smoothie down now. Good thing I guess about having a smoothie is it doesn't matter in terms of the temperature, because it's not going to go cold because it's already cold. So let's get started, shall we, with a little bit of what's on my needles. So this week I do have a kind of naughty little addition to share with you. Basically, last week you may recall that I had a finished object, one of my first ever knitted hats, which was the Harvest Moon hat by the River Knitter that I completed last week. Literally knitted it in the space of a week. But there was a little addition to that hat that I hadn't yet purchased, which I now have, and I just have to share it with you because it's too cute. I got a little furry pom-pom. So I got a faux fur pom-pom. How adorable is this? Which is now on my hat. And I just love it. I'm absolutely in love with it. And yes, I'm going to have to put it on to show off the faux fur pom-pom goodness. So the hat obviously was finished last week. But now, we got a pom-pom. Isn't it ridiculous? Pom-pom-pom-pom-pom-pom, pom-pom-pom-pom-pom-pom. Pom-pom! So yeah, I realise I look ridiculous. I know that there was a big craze going across a lot of the podcasts for these faux fur pom-poms, and I just had to jump on that bandwagon because this is so poofy. It's like a big powder puff. I really feel that it looks super cute on this hat. It's a little bit stark, I must admit, in comparison to the kind of more creamy tones that are in the hat. But my kind of theory is that there's no way that this pom-pom is going to stay this white forever. I reckon it'll kind of dull down a bit. It is actually really blowing out on the camera. It doesn't look this bright white in real life. It looks a lot less kind of in your face. Obviously, we're going into kind of spring, summer now, so it's going to be a long time before I actually get to wear this hat, but it is ready to go. It's going in the drawer. I'm going to keep it nice and ready for when the cold weather comes around again. And I am going to wear the bejesus out of this. So in terms of works in progress this week, you may remember additionally from last week, I was talking about being in a bit of a knitting slump and how my knitting wasn't really giving me a huge amount of satisfaction. One thing that I have been focusing on this week is I've been a fairly monogamous knitter, which before I started the podcast is really how I used to knit. I would pick a project, I'd work on that project until it was done, and then I would start the next one. During the process of podcasting, I've got a lot more excited about hundreds of projects, and I've needed to cast on everything all at once, which is just, I suppose, something that comes from being part of a community that's sharing so much beautiful yarny goodness on a weekly basis, because you get so inspired. It can mean that you get a little overexcited and you end up with about 100,000 projects on the needles, or at least that's what it feels like at the moment. But this week I decided I want to be pretty monogamous, and I have literally pretty much been knitting entirely monogamously on my Random Act of Colour shawl. So I have done a lot of work on this week. I'm really, really happy with how much progress I have made, because you can now see last week I was on this green eyelet pattern in the middle, and I'm now on the final eyelet section, which is in my beautiful hot pink colour. This project, my pet name for it is my Elliot Shawl. As I've said previously, the colours remind me of Elliot from Pete's Dragon. But yeah, I've got a very little amount left to do on this shawl before it will actually be cast off. I am on the first of the eyelet patterns. It's actually, I believe, only a couple of repeats of that before you start doing the end, ready to cast off. So I am relatively hopeful that I should have this cast off, if not this evening, then within the next couple of days. I did want to talk this week a little bit more specifically about this pattern, because I realised that I hadn't talked about kind of the message behind this pattern previously. So it's called Random Act of Colour. and it's designed by lovely, lovely Debby and Amy, the Periscoping Sisters. They're just wonderful, wonderful women. I absolutely adore them, and I was really, really thrilled when they asked me to test knit this pattern for them. But the story behind Random Act of Colour is actually inspired by Wendy, who is Debby and Amy's sister, who passed away, sadly, a while ago. But this kind of pattern, as I'm sure you've probably heard from the other test knitters, the idea is that you have two colours that work well together. So I had my purple and green that kind of complement each other. And then the idea is to pick a third colour that is kind of really out there and really bold and bright, because the idea of this is that Wendy as a person was a bit of a live wire, and she would literally kind of bring this pop of colour into people's lives. And I think it's a beautiful message, it's a beautiful pattern, because it encourages you to kind of pick combinations of colours that you wouldn't necessarily gravitate to normally. So for example, this kind of hot pink is not something that I would automatically go, yes, I need a whole project of this. But within the shawl, I just think it works really well, and this has actually ended up being my favourite colour in the whole combination. I just think it looks really pretty, and I'm so happy with how it's turning out. The yarn, by the way, is supplied by Anzula fibres. It's their squishy base, which is a beautiful MCN base. The colours that I have are called Emerald, Fiona and Iris. So Emerald is the green, Fiona is the purple, and Iris is the amazing hot pink. The other test knitters for this project, I believe I am kind of the last person to finish. I know for a fact that Sue of the Legacy Knits podcast and Mina of the Knitting Expat podcast have already finished their projects. Theirs are beautiful. The colour combinations that they picked are perfect for each one of them. They're just amazing. And the other test knitter is Danny from the Little Bobbins. And as far as I know, she hasn't finished entirely yet, but I think she's a little further along than I am. So as far as I know, she's also finished, and I'm definitely kind of bringing up the rear in terms of the test knitters, but I will have it finished soon. And yeah, hopefully I'll have it blocked by next week so I can show it to you properly. But for now, I'm just going to kind of snuggle with it because it's so lovely. And this pattern is going to be available on the 15th of June for all of you guys, so you can download it yourselves. And Debby and Amy are actually going to be having their own cal for this shawl, which starts on July the 1st. So you can get your pattern on the 15th, you can get all of the yarn together, you know, maybe even go for some Anzula because it is so gorgeous. But, you know, whatever you like, get your yarn together and then be ready to start the knit along on July 1st. So I would recommend it. It's been great fun to knit. Final project for what's on my needles this week is, of course, my Cozy Memories blanket. And yeah, I haven't really added that many squares onto this week. These three, 1, 2, 3 were added this week. And yeah, this has been on the back burner a little bit over the last week, mostly because, like I said, I've been a pretty monogamous knitter working on the A Random Act of Colour shawl, but also the warmer it gets, the less inclined I am to pick this up, because it's not huge, but it's sizable. It's sizable, you guys. And obviously it's all wool, and that means it's super cozy and super warm, which obviously means that when you have it draped over yourself on a cool evening, that's absolutely glorious. But when you're kind of knitting on it and it's getting quite hot outside, it's not the most pleasant feeling. And the last thing that I want to do is get my Cozy Memories blanket all kind of sweaty in the heat. But yeah, I am still completely in love with this project. It's a lovely, lovely thing to do. I love working on this blanket, and I could very easily spend an entire day winding up mini skeins and knitting them into this blanket. But it's going to be a long, long time before this is anywhere near completion. And I have a lot of other smaller projects that if I'd put that time into those, they would be off the needles and they wouldn't be still hanging around. So I'm thinking that this may have to take a little vacation just while I get some other projects off the needles, because otherwise it's just too tempting. We'll see how we get on. I honestly don't think I'll be able to put it away and not work on it at all, because I love it too much. It's so squishy. And it makes me very, very happy. Smoothie break. I love smoothies. So that was everything that's actually kind of on my needles this week. Like I said, been very monogamous, very much kind of just knitting on one project, but I'm hoping that's going to help me in terms of my overall kind of turnaround for projects, so that you get to see some newer, more interesting things. But next up is a segment that has been on a little hiatus for the last couple of weeks, and I'm really excited to bring it back because I have some really fun things to talk to you about, and that is For the Love of Pod. And this is my segment where I talk about a couple of podcasts who have been bringing me a special amounts of joy over the past week. This week, again, I have decided to focus on audio podcasts. There are 3 in particular that I'd like to talk about this week that are just fantastic. First up is one I've been listening to for quite some time, and that is the Prairie Girls Knit and Spin podcast, which is hosted by lovely Danny and Susie. And without a doubt, you guys, whenever one of these podcasts comes up on iTunes, I have to listen to it immediately because I just adore it. These women are hilarious. I love your relationship, guys. If you do watch, I have no idea if you watch, but Susie and Danny are such good friends, and the chemistry between them is wonderful because they laugh and joke and it makes me smile. I'll be driving in the car literally grinning from ear to ear. They share a huge amount of knowledge in terms of anything fibre related. They're always working on fun projects. I just think that they're pretty much a perfect podcast, and they bring me so much happiness. I just adore them. So thank you so much, ladies, and please check them out because they will leave you grinning from ear to ear. Next up is actually a new to me podcast that I just started listening to this week, but I have since gone back and listened to about 10 of their back catalogue of episodes because I'm enjoying them so much. And that is the Yarn and the City podcast. So you may remember Yarn in the City are the authors of the London Craft Guide that I shared a couple of weeks ago that I picked up when I was in London with Eric, which is a book all about, do you know what, I'm just going to grab it because it's over here. The London Craft Guide that I shared with you a little while ago because I picked it up in London. And it's this gorgeous, gorgeous book all about different fabric shops, yarn shops, haberdasheries, and lots of fun things like that in London. Yes, they also have a podcast, the Yarn and the City podcast. And the 2 ladies, I keep saying they, it's Rachel and Alison, originally from North America, but they both now live in London. And they created this incredible craft guide, which I absolutely love. They are also the creators of the Great London Yarn Crawl, which is exactly as amazing as it sounds. Not something that I've ever done, but basically you go around some amazing yarn shops in London, kind of like a pub crawl, but with yarn. And as far as I'm concerned, that is amazing. And they are also starting the Yarnporium, which is a yarny fibre event that will be occurring in London in November. Both of which I'm super, super interested in going to. So if anyone in the UK is thinking that they're wanting to go on the Great London Yarn Crawl or to the Yarnporium in November, then message me. Maybe we should do some kind of meetup or something, because that sounds right up my alley. But let's talk about their podcast, shall we? Again, it's a really, really nice chemistry between both Rachel and Alison. They talk about some fabulous stuff. They have interviews. Their content is amazing. And yeah, I couldn't speak more highly of them as a podcast. I think they're fantastic. Do give them a listen. They are well worth your time. And particularly if you are kind of UK based, they really do focus on locally produced yarns and bringing the incredibly vibrant yarn scene that is such a part of American culture over into the UK, because we are slightly more reserved when it comes to our love of the yarn. And yeah, really, really exciting, and I enjoy them so much, so do check them out. The last podcast that I would like to recommend is something a little bit different, but it is very linked to yarny goodness, and that is the audio podcast Monologamous, which you may have heard if you were a fan of Junk Yarn, hosted by the lovely Kemper, because this is an audio podcast that she produces with her husband, her new husband Bill, and it's all about relationships and relationship advice. And I kid you not, you guys, it's probably one of the funniest things that I've ever listened to. Every week they answer, I think, about 3 questions that have been posted to them on their Tumblr or through Twitter, asking for relationship advice. I don't want to spoil it by saying exactly what the questions are, because genuinely some of the questions are so funny in themselves that I couldn't handle it, but the answers that are given are thoughtful, but also very witty, just great fun. If you enjoy Kemper's style in her usual podcast, you will absolutely love Monologamous. Hearing her kind of banter and relationship with her husband through it is just wonderful. I absolutely love it, and all the episodes that are up there already are well worth a listen, so do check out Monologamous, because I laughed so much on some of the episodes that I nearly peed a little bit. True story. I am making my way through this smoothie. There's only that much left, and I was up to here at the beginning of the episode. It's like a meal in a jar. I'm gonna put it down again. Moving swiftly on to our next segment, which is So What? I have been enjoying my sewing so much, you guys, over the last kind of week or so. I have been putting a lot of work in on actual projects, but I've also been doing a lot of planning, a lot of scheduling for future makes, and I'm in such a happy place, and it's just really, really fun. So first of all, I want to talk about a finished object, because you may or may not have noticed during this episode, I'm wearing something that I've been talking about wearing for quite some time that might finally be finished, and that is my Carol dress. Yay! So this is the Carol dress, my first ever Netflix and sew project, which was inspired by the film Carol and one particular dress that was worn in it, and I've been talking about it for ages. It's been hanging around not getting finished for ages, and it finally is done, and I'm so happy, and I'm going to give you a little kind of show off of this outfit. So this dress, for those of you that haven't watched previous episodes, is a combination of bodice pieces that I took from an original 1950s pattern, and then I drafted the skirt myself. It's literally just a simple kind of gathered skirt, although what I did was pleated it, if you can see along here. As opposed to gathering it, I decided that pleats would look a little bit kind of neater. It all came together really well in the end, and I am super happy with it. Let me just show you the neckline detail as well. You can kind of see here, it's a V neck. I was a little bit kind of put off during the process of making this dress, because I thought it's going to end up being really boring. I'm not naturally attracted to black as a colour when I'm buying clothes, and I thought, oh, it's just going to be really dull, and I'd rather be making something with like a wacky print or something fun, something more kitschy. But actually having this completed and wearing this and being able to see how I look in it and how I feel in it, I absolutely love this dress. It's going to turn into one of those things that I reach for without a doubt when I'm getting ready in the morning, because I'll just think that is going to feel comfortable, it's easy to wear, but it's still stylish. There are a couple of little bits and pieces that are not quite perfect with this dress. So it's technically finished, it's wearable, it fits. However, I'm going to show you a little secret. Can you see I have pins in my back? So these pins, when I tried the dress on this morning, I was standing up, and I've got a little bit of bad posture. My generation were the generation that first started being glued to computers and mobile phones. So a posture that a lot of us have is kind of this, you know, because we're always over our phone and we're always like hunched over and we get this little hunchback. And when I'm hunched, this dress along the back fits pretty much perfectly. When I stand up straight, can you see that little bump that appears? So from going like from here to here, I get this little hump. Can you see that? How funny does that look? Basically what it looks like, when I was fitting the zip into this dress, I think I must have been a little bit tired or just completely off my game, because I managed to fit this dress perfectly for a bit of a hunch. And as soon as I stand up straight, I get this little kind of pocket of extra fabric in the back. So what I will be doing is taking out that part of the zip and restitching it just to tighten up so I don't get that little kind of hump of fabric when I stand up straight, because the last thing that I want is a dress to encourage me to sit with a hunch. So there is that. Other things to talk about from a so what perspective are the incredibly exciting wardrobe architect adventure that I have been going on for the last couple of weeks. The Wardrobe Architect is a series of blog posts all about creating a capsule wardrobe that reflects your own personal style. Thank you so much to everyone who's headed over to the Ravelry group and been joining in the conversation, because I have loved chatting away with you guys in that thread. So last week I was talking about weeks 1 and 2 of the Wardrobe Architect. The culmination of both weeks 1 and 2 were creating a list of about 5 words that you feel really represent your personal style, and then finding a selection of images that represent that for you. So the words that I came out with after going through the worksheets of weeks 1 and 2 were theatrical, characterful, happy, quirky, and retro. And I'm really happy with those words. I feel that they do kind of represent how I feel about my personal style, and also the style that I would like to reflect through my clothing. I spent a really enjoyable afternoon on Pinterest, kind of finding images that reflect these words and put me into the exact space that I wanted to be in terms of what I want to create in my sewing wardrobe from now onwards. And what I'm going to insert here is a little selection of those images and a little slideshow. So I hope you enjoy them. So yay! Oh my goodness, those images make me really, really happy. I am so excited about this project, it's not even funny. But I am going to be continuing with weeks 3 and 4 this week. And those weeks are all about kind of shapes that work for you, and also then taking those shapes into silhouettes. So the worksheet that I have downloaded for week 3 is basically kind of rating your feelings. You get this chart that details kind of different shapes for skirts, dresses, trousers, cardigans, and it goes ease, length, fullness, and waistline, and it gives you an idea of how these things make you feel because you rate them. What you then do is take the highest rating shapes and turn them into silhouettes. So for example, if you really enjoy tight-fitted bodice and full skirts like I do, that would be a really nice silhouette to then incorporate into the week 4 exercises. So this whole process has been fascinating and I would really, really recommend it. I can't wait to share with you kind of my shapes and silhouettes that I come up with for next week. But if you're interested in it, I would really recommend checking out the blog posts yourself, and obviously come over to our group on Ravelry, the Wardrobe Architect group on the Inside Number 23 Ravelry group, and just have a little chat and share, because some of the things that have been come up with so far are really inspiring, and it's a really nice place to kind of talk through all these different bits and pieces. So, yay! Smoothie is all gone now. It's all gone. So I have 2 more lovely segments for you this week, and the first one is Owl Post. I have been absolutely blown away this week to receive not 1, not 2, but 3 incredible parcels from people who view the podcast. It blows me away that someone would want to kind of express their love for this podcast and for what I do with sending me a gift. And as always, I never expect something like this, but it blows me away when it happens. So thank you guys. So first up, I received a beautiful package from Tasha, who is Tasha's Adventures on Instagram. And Tasha has been very kind of active on the Ravelry group and my Instagram feed for a while. So she has been on my radar for a little while. So hello, Tasha. Hello, sending you lots of love. And she sent me the most wonderful little parcel this week, filled with some gorgeous stuff. I won't show you everything, but she did send some beautiful stitch markers that she made herself, including a little puggy stitch marker in here. She sent me a little bag of stitch markers. There's a pug, there's a knitted sweater, there's tea, there's a sewing machine, but even more amazing, she actually also sent one for you guys. So she trades at Familiar Notions, familiarnotions.etsy.com, so do go and check out her website. Obviously I will link it in the show notes, but she has sent these for a giveaway, and I think what I'm going to be including these for is probably going to be one of the special prizes for kind of Katie's choice in the Voidalong. But the real pièce de résistance in her parcel was, and so amazing, she sent me Fluffy. She sent me Fluffy, the 3-headed dog. Isn't he adorable? She actually crocheted this herself. Look at his little butt. She crocheted this herself for the Harry Potter kind of knit along, crochet along, anything along, and he's now come to live with me, and I love him so much. And the fact that you made this, Tasha, is incredible, because he is amazing, and I'm so happy that you sent him to live with me. I absolutely adore him, and yeah, thank you, Tasha. Thank you for everything in your parcel. He's so cute. The second parcel that I received this week was from another lovely viewer called Renee, who is Zupermutt on Instagram. So hello, Renee. Thank you so much. Thank you for your parcel. Renee lives in Portland, which, to start off with, I'm super jealous of, because I've always wanted to visit Portland. I don't know what it is about Portland. I don't know how I've got this idea in my head that it's somewhere that I really have to go, but I will go there at some point, definitely, because it just feels like such an amazing place. And from what you sent me, Renee, if this is the type of thing that they have in Portland, I'm down with going, let's just say that. So again, I'm not going to show you everything that Renee sent me. She sent me a box that was absolutely full of goodies. But one thing that I did want to share with you that came out of this beautiful box, which incidentally was one of the most beautifully wrapped things that I have ever seen in my life. I could never wrap something as beautiful. And I'm actually going to save the wrapping paper, I think, Renee, because it's so beautiful. But she sent me my first ever skein of Life in the Long Grass yarn. And you said, Renee, that this colour reminded you of me. In particular, it has these little speckles, these kind of hot pink, bright red speckles that you said reminded you of my lipstick. But the second that I saw this yarn, it's perfect. It's so beautiful. It's all kind of the autumnal colours that I absolutely love. There's some real rusty reds in there. There's deep purples. There's burgundy. There is that kind of splash of scarlet. It's absolutely stunning. It's called Turf, and it's Life in the Long Grass fingering. So it's 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon, and I love it. Thank you, Renee. So generous, absolutely amazing, and so appreciated. You're incredible. And how cute is this card? Portland! The last parcel that I was lucky enough to receive this week was from the incredibly wonderful and generous Twee of the Twisted Stitches podcast. And you may recall from a couple of episodes ago, I was talking about how much I enjoyed Twisted Stitches, and Twee and I had kind of been chatting on Instagram, and we decided that we were going to do a tea swap. Twee's parcel arrived for me this week, and oh my goodness gracious. I thought I was going to receive some tea and maybe a couple of other little bits, and the tea ended up being the little bits, and everything else just blew my mind. She sent me some peeps, some little chick peeps, and I've never had peeps before, but I love marshmallow. And oh my goodness, I'm obsessed with peeps now. Twee, you have made me completely obsessed. Emrys is obsessed. We definitely need to get hold of more peeps. So thank you for letting me have my first taste of peeps, because they are awesome. She also sent me the most gorgeous selection of mini skeins, one of which is a Gryffindor colourway, which is just amazing. But this is how sad it is, you guys, because I got so excited because this is a genuine Ziploc bag. We don't actually have like Ziploc bags, I'm pretty sure, in the UK. At least I've never seen them, but a little bit of American culture there. I got very excited about the Ziploc bag. She sent me a beautiful selection of teas, some of my favourite Tazo teas, which I'm so happy to have. So thank you, Twee. She also sent me some other amazing goodies. But the thing that really blew me away, completely and utterly surprised me, and I was not expecting in 1,000 years, was all of these patterns. Twee! What did you do? Like, oh my goodness. Ugh. This is an incredible selection of both kind of butterick patterns, McCall patterns, and simplicity patterns, all of which are kind of retro themed. So they're all the kind of 50s style. This one just kills me. Look at that. Oh, it's butterick halter dress there. Simplicity. Doesn't that kind of make you think Carter, Agent Carter? Totally Agent Carter. Absolutely love it. There was this beautiful 1950s one. Don't know if I'm quite brave enough to wear this style, but it's stunning. And the blouse and the skirt are beautiful. A couple of 1950s style dresses by Simplicity. But the thing that really blew me away is that she sent me this pattern, which is one of the patterns that I had talked about wanting to make for summer. And you bought it for me, Twee. Thank you. Thank you so much. Utterly speechless. I am the worsted, as Jenny of the Lone Larch podcast would say, as I have your box pretty much waiting to be sent out. I have a couple of other things that I want to add to it, but it will be coming out to you soon. And I hope that my parcel brings you as much joy as yours brought me. Because genuinely, every time I look at it, I get overwhelmed and a little bit emotional. Thank you so much. You're the best. You're all the best. Thank you to the lovely ladies who sent me parcels this week, but also thank you to all of you for watching and sending me words of encouragement, because it makes such a difference, and I love you all. You're amazing, and I feel like the luckiest girl in the whole world. Let's move on before I get emotional and cry, because that happens on this podcast. Right, the final section of this week's podcast. Yay! you're probably all celebrating, is of course General Waffle. General Waffle. And for my General Waffle this week, I am going to be talking about what I have been watching, because I am a huge telly addict, film addict, watching of anything addict, and I have a couple of things that I wanted to talk about this week. I've had a really up and down time with the things that I've been watching. I've watched a couple of films that I was really looking forward to seeing. I finally got the opportunity to watch, and I was left feeling really disappointed. The first thing that I watched was Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. And as you may or may not know, this is based on a book which is basically taking the text of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice and adding in a zombie story in addition to kind of your regular Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy story. I really enjoyed the book. I read the book when it came out originally. It was the story that we all know and love with the addition of zombies. And to be perfectly honest, it made Elizabeth Bennet and all of her sisters even more badass than they already are. I was very much looking forward to the film. It had a really quite a good cast in place. Unfortunately, I was bored. And that's not something that I would assume that I would be saying about an adaptation of Pride and Prejudice that involves zombies. I don't feel that there was enough difference, or at least enough kind of clever, witty difference between what was happening in the original story of Pride and Prejudice and what was happening in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies to appeal to a fan of the original Jane Austen novel. I didn't think it was being as clever as the book was in the way that it changed things. So it didn't appeal to a Jane Austen audience, but I also feel that it wasn't kind of different enough in terms of the zombie film genre that is so popular and is so current at the moment with things like The Walking Dead to appeal to anyone who's just a zombie fan lover. So it really didn't have an audience to appeal to. I was left feeling quite flat after watching it, and generally quite disappointed because I don't feel like it was extreme enough to warrant a film, because why not just read the book? The next film that I watched is another one that I was really interested in seeing because I'm a fan of a couple of members of the cast, and that is a film called Regression, and it's starring Ethan Hawke and Emma Watson and David, I can't pronounce his name, but basically he is the actor who played Professor Lupin in Harry Potter. So obviously I was interested in a film that was going to bring back Professor Lupin and Hermione into one movie, and I was just like, yeah, have to watch this. The main idea behind Regression also really appealed to me. The story is that a young girl accuses her family of being involved with abuse that includes herself, and the idea is that a lot of members of the family do not seem to have any recollection of these events taking place. And they do something called regression therapy, which is going into your kind of forgotten memories and pulling out information that you may have kind of decided that you don't want anymore. There's also a theme of kind of satanic rituals. As the more information that comes out about this abuse, it starts turning into, oh, there's a sect and a group of people are carrying out this systematic abuse on this girl because it's all to do with Satan worship and that type of thing. When I saw the trailer for this film originally, I thought it looks quite compelling, it looks quite dark, it looks a little bit unexpected and you wouldn't know what was going on, and it was definitely the type of film that would appeal to me as a viewer. However, when I started watching it again, I was bored, you guys. This is the case of both of these films. Both Pride and Prejudice and Zombies and Regression had incredible trailers, but when we actually watched the film in question, they didn't deliver everything that the trailer kind of said would be in the film. The problem that I had with Regression was that I could pretty much tell where the storyline was going. So the conclusion and the climax of the film was not in any way shocking or surprising because I'd pretty much come to that conclusion myself about 45 minutes prior to actually having that big moment. It felt very disjointed. It didn't really know what it wanted to be as a film. Did it want to be more psychological? Did it want to be a horror film? Did it want to be very gritty and real? Did it want to be addressing, you know, child abuse? What did it actually want to be? Because it didn't seem to pick a genre and stick to it. And I feel that it would have been a much stronger film if that's what it had done. So both of those films, I would suggest they're probably worth a watch. I would never say don't watch a film unless it's so horrifically bad that you're literally kind of wasting your life by watching them. You can draw your own conclusions from either of those films, but I do get very disappointed when a film promises that it will be a certain way and then lets you down. It's just sad when that happens, don't you think? But talking about more positive things that I've been watching, the real saving grace of the last couple of weeks in terms of actually watching stuff has been in the form of a television programme. And that is something that I have only recently become aware of. So I was able to pretty much binge watch it from start to finish. And that is a television programme called The Family. And anyone who's also watched this programme will automatically know why I'm so excited about it, because genuinely it was one of the best pieces of television that I have seen in a very, very long time. I don't want to kind of do any spoilers because it's very much a type of programme that you really, really need to watch it. And the more I say, the more I'm going to ruin your viewing of it. But the concept that's kind of detailed in all of the advertisements for this TV programme is that there is a family. The mother is a politician. And they have 3 children. They have 2 boys and a girl. And the youngest boy, when he's 8 years old, disappears. One of their neighbours is found guilty of murdering their son and is sent to prison. It's very, very difficult, very traumatic for the family, obviously. But then 10 years later, a boy turns up, an 18-year-old boy, and he says, that's me, I'm that boy. So he wasn't murdered, he's just turned up 10 years later. And obviously the story of the programme is how that discovery impacts his family, how they've changed over the past 10 years and how his return changes them. And it also focuses on the story of the man who was convicted of the murder of this boy, who then it turns out wasn't actually murdered. So as you can tell from that, it's very gritty and it's very dark. It's not easy viewing. It deals with a lot of kind of difficult subject matter, and you know, talking about the abduction of children is very, very hard to do. And I think that this programme handles that subject incredibly well. But surprisingly enough, it also handles the story of the man who was accused of murdering a child in a way that I have never seen that kind of a story handled before. Very, very sensitively, very thought-provokingly. And to be honest, I think that that aspect of the story was probably the most fascinating of the entire programme. It's incredibly well acted. The cast is outstanding. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely superb, and I am quite disappointed to hear that I think that they may have cancelled it. But I wouldn't let that discourage you from watching it at all, because it was incredible. I don't understand why it's been cancelled, because it was so, so good. It was amazing. I couldn't stop watching it. And yeah, if you get the opportunity to watch it and you're into that kind of style of television, you'll not be able to stop watching it either. It's amazing. So guys, that is everything for today. That is us all finished. 20th episode of Inside Number 23. Can you believe it? Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for coming back every week and checking out what I'm getting on with, because I've said this before, but there are so many podcasts out there now. It means the world to me that you'd want to spend a bit of time with me. So thank you for that. Like the video if you've enjoyed what you see. Please subscribe if you want to be kept up to date when I have new videos. I put my podcast up every Monday, but I am putting up little vlogs and mini videos in between. So if you want to know when something's up, easiest thing to do is subscribe, and then you get a lovely little notification on YouTube when I have a new video, so always good. For now, I am just going to say I hope you all have a wonderful week. Can't wait to start the Void Shawl on Wednesday, so remember, get your yarn together if you want to cast on with us on the 1st. I can't wait to cake up my yarn this afternoon. Literally, such a treat. Such a treat. But for now, let me just say, happy sewing, happy knitting, and I will see you all soon. Bye! It was Roly's birthday yesterday. My little baby, my Poochie, is... Oh, it's a mark on the phone. Oh, I thought there was a massive spider behind me, but it was actually just a mark on the phone. Oh, I nearly had a heart attack. Anyway,